basically the things on the screen which you can interact with, and action is performing those objects. Okay. Objects can be seen, heard, touched, or perceived in some manner. Now, UI is classified like differentiated into two groups. One is like text-based, and one is like graphical user interface. So basically, you're going to be dealing with graphical user interface. GUI is basically it frees the user from learning complex command languages,
So
and
basically
it
Linux
uses what?
command line interfaces, Linux,
It
right?
doesn't. Yeah, yeah. So okay, basically it uses icons and visual indicators such as uh, buttons, menus, pop-ups, etc. You'll see that in the next slide. And on the contrary to text-based user interfaces as type commands, labels, and text navigation. So GUI versus CUI. Okay. Okay, so GUI contains 3D buttons, pop-up messages, drop-down menu. GUI gives the feel of being a part of the system itself. It permits various levels of customization, faster information transfer between the computer and the user, and it allows images in the app, which draws more attention, which draws more attention for the human. Okay, so now the components of GUI. The headings are very light, so you can take a look at the heading.
Okay.
Okay, so pointer. Pointer is basically the arrow thing on your screen. That's basically it. I don't know why they explained it so much. A pointing device is a mouse. Okay. Icons is basically your folder icon, Chrome icon, all that shit. You can move your icons by clicking and dragging to move the icons, or if you double click the icons, it executes. That counts as an action, and your icons are like objects. So if you click on an icon, some executable file will open. Okay, so desktop is basically where the icons are grouped together. Windows is the boundary at which the application is. So you can resize your window, reshape the window, move the window anywhere on the desktop. Menus is basically what commands you can choose in your application. Okay, now there are two types of manipulation interface. There is direct manipulation and indirect manipulation. Okay, so direct manipulation, this is very simple. It basically what you do on the screen will be reflected immediately as you're doing it. So if you're moving something on the screen, when you click on the pointer to move it, you'll see that the pointer is moving that icon or that window. Okay. Direct
It's like
manipulation works.
any game, na?
Yeah, basically.
Or like
It
CS:GO
works.
ka main menu. Like you move it to the
Yeah,
right
basically
and
anything where you do the action and it immediately you can see what you're doing. Like the action, you can see on your screen. So the interface works on the what you see is what you get principle. So I just seeing it.
what you
It
see is
is
what you get. Oh, that is the full form of
yeah. Even I
ISIW.
had to go with it. Yeah. Okay. So this allows rapid and incremental feedback because as you're doing stuff, you can see what you're doing, right? And it makes the user commit fewer errors and complete the task in less time. Okay, for example, resizing graphical shapes such as rectangle, dragging its corners, edges with the mouse, etc. Dragging documents to the trash, changing visual shapes, etc., etc. All that shit. The characteristics are the system is ported as an extension to the real world, continuous visibility of objects and actions, as I said. Actions are rapid and incremental, that was in the previous point, and actions are easily reversible. Okay, so they've given an example of driving an automobile. I don't know why they gave like such a real world example. But okay, so in a automobile, when you turn left, you can actually see the car going left.
For your
When you
way.
turn right, yeah, so you get the point. Okay. So what are the limitations of direct manipulation? So direct manipulation is also a type of GUI. So uh, doing operations or like making a GUI can be a difficult task. Okay, the graphic capabilities of a system may be limited. So like if you don't have a uh, system which can run the application, then it's of no use of that GUI, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then it's like you want to run Horizon Dawn or something, but you have like a 980 or something, you can't run it. Okay, so that's one. Then it is difficult to remember all the operations and actions of that GUI. Okay, that's all the limitations. Now we move on to indirect manipulation. They have not said much about this. Only said that they have substitute text with symbols and type it pointing. But that's like the only thing they said. Most UI is a combination of direct and indirect manipulation. Which style of interaction, direct and indirect, is a combination of both. Okay, blah, blah. Okay, so the advantages of GUI. Okay, so the first example is GUI use a lot of symbols, and symbols can be processed by us faster than text on a screen, right? Um, then pictorial representation can be easily learned. It can be faster, and it we can do problem solving much better. Okay, it's easier to remember, more natural somehow. It exploits visual and spatial cues. Now, what does that mean is in a GUI mostly in any. Okay, so it's like the standard in an app that on the left side there's a menu, right? And in the left corner there's the button to go back or something like that. So it's like it's natural to us, and that's how GUI makers and UI makers make an app, keeping that in mind. So it exploits visual and spatial cues, focuses more concrete thinking. That's in um, we know that there will be a menu on the left, so we don't need to think that where the menu is and where to get to the next application, because we already know that there are standard things, right? And the menu will be on the left or some other thing will be on the right, etc. Easily reversible actions, fewer errors, less anxiety concerning use, immediate feedback, predictable systems, more trackers, and may consume less space. So those are all the okay. And then there's replace natural languages, as in symbols basically are universal, right? We don't a person in Pakistan or like any other country will still know the symbol of a back symbol or a forward symbol, and that doesn't need any language barrier. Okay, then there's low typing requirements, more transition from command language. Okay, I don't know. Okay, there's water cycle over here for some reason. I have no idea what it's got to do with GUI, so I skipped that. Like this has
Yes,
no relation
that
whatsoever.
I'm hearing the ting ting ting. I was also thinking it's my WhatsApp.
Okay, that's mine.
Yeah.
Okay, wait, I'll close mine.
Uh,
Close. Okay. Uh, okay. So I'm. Hey, dude. Okay, so water cycle I'm skipping. Okay, so now the disadvantages. Okay, so the disadvantages are greater design complexity, as in it's not easy to design a UI, keeping all of those things in mind. Learning is still necessary. Some people not may know the use of the icon or what the icons represent, the significance of each icon has to be remembered, and people need to learn how pointing devices need to be learned. Okay. Uh, Also, there are lack of experimentally derived design guidelines, inconsistencies in technology, technique and terminology, not always familiar. So, symbolic representation may not always be as similar as words and numbers. Non-technical people may still prefer a text-based system over graphics. Human comprehension limitations. So, if a touchscreen app is given to a user who doesn't have a touchscreen, some actions may be limited to that user. Okay, so there's that. Touchscreens, double clicking a mouse, drag and drop, etc. Few tested icons exist, inefficient for touch typists, not always preferred and the fastest style of interaction. Increased chances of clutter and confusion, hardware limitations. Okay, so I guess it's all self-explanatory. We'll go on to the next.
Is it?
Characteristics of GIs.
So
But
nothing. Go. Like you have to just read these, right?
yeah, this part, all this part of this field, basically. Okay, characteristics of GI. This is kind of important. Like they might ask this. Okay, so the GUI should be sophisticated visual presence, as in it should represent what the app is trying to do in like a meaningful, simple, and clear manner. Pick and click interaction is like using a mouse, picking an object and clicking it. So it's like basically it should be a direct interaction. When you click the object, the action should pop up immediately.
So there's a
Restricted
good direct
set of interface.
direct manipulation, that is right.
Hmm?
If you click on it and it
Yeah,
spins.
basically. Yeah, basically. Restricted set of interface options, as in compared to a web app, uh, a GUI app created like an offline GUI app will not have as many um, what can you say uh,
Options like
options to go to different other stuff
connectivity.
like yeah, so like Google, you can search for anything, right? Like you type something and you click search, you can, there's endless unlimited options and directions to go to, whereas a normal,
Like
what the
pages.
fuck? Close it.
What?
Why did I give you
I actually want to use my own screen alt tab.
1 second, wait, how do I
Oh, yeah, I hit alt tab. I hit alt tab. I wanted to use my
one
alt tab,
second.
but I hit your alt tab. I'm looking
One
like there's
second.
nothing is happening on my screen.
About
Okay,
control. Okay, they can do,
I can. I'll leave.
yeah. Okay,
But
so yeah, restricted set of interface options. Visualization. Effective visualization can facilitate mental insight and increase productivity. Like I said, like if you know where the icons are and where your actions are, you don't need to think like what to do in the app and where to go. Like it will come to you immediately. Object orientation. Things in an app should be oriented properly. User recognition memory. So this is basically like the app should know what the user is going to do or what the user has done previously in the app, right? And concurrent performance of functions. So the UI should be able to handle different actions at the same time. Okay, now web user interface. Web user interface is basically a browser stuff. What do you do in a Chrome browser, for example? Navigation and presentation of information, well structured, easy to use, back and forward buttons. Uh, the expertise is not need to be known, and there's some level of standardization. Right. Okay, so GI versus web page. they might ask only like some of these because this is like a two-page answer. Okay. So, okay, devices. Now, you need to, like I said in the start, you picture a GUI and you picture like a Chrome browser website. Okay. So now devices use a hardware limitation, variations are limited. Whereas, okay, whereas
And
in a
basically, just
web page design,
imagine using Discord on browser and Discord on the app.
no, wait. That's kind of different. I'll tell you why. Wait. One sec. Okay, so user hardware variations limited in GUI versus user hardware variations enormous. So basically, okay, I give you for GUI, I'll give you a game to run on your PC versus I'll give you a web game. So a normal GUI game to run on a PC will take up more of your hardware resources compared to a web game, right?
Yeah.
So basically, that's what it says. Like um, in web design, the user can have whatever like hardware, it will still basically run. Whereas in GUI, the hardware needs to be like limited or specific. Okay.
Hmm.
User hardware characteristics well defined. That is, uh,
They
the
mention what are
app
the
will have
requirements.
specific. Yeah, it has specific requirements. Screen will appear exactly as specified by the developer of the GUI, whereas in web, screen appearance will be influenced by the hardware being used. That is your resolution of your own laptop or monitor per se. Okay, user focus for GUIs and data and applications, whereas on web pages it is for information and navigation. Okay, data information typically created and used by known and trusted sources. Properties generally known, typically placed into a system by users of known people and organizations, typically organized in a meaningful fashion. And the notion of a private key. Okay, so basically, let's take any app. Basically, let's take Subway Surfers, for example. That is a game that is created for a specific audience. Uh, it is created by a known and trusted developer, all that shit. Versus take any website. So the website is full of unknown content. Sources are not always trusted, often placed onto the web by users or known people in organizations. Highly variable organization privacy often suspect. Okay. User task install, configure, personalize. So this is basically an app. Okay. So you can install, configure, personalize, all that shit. Open and close data file. Fairly long time spent within the application. Familiarity with applications often achieved. Okay.
Because it's the
For web,
same.
link to a site, browser, all that shit. A response time is nearly instantaneous because normal GUIs have stuff it is preloaded on your system, right? Compared to web apps which differ depending on your internet speed and etc. Interaction such as clicking buttons, menu choices, pressing buttons, all that shit versus web pages which have basic interaction and single click. Okay. Presentation elements, windows, menus, toolbars, all that shit. Versus a browser and page. Now the browser and page can be images, audio, video, animation, etc. It's standardized. Context restricted navigation paths, multiple viewable windows. So in a GUI app, there'll be restricted content. So there'll be restricted navigation paths to that content. Whereas in a web browser, you can have basically unlimited navigation paths and single page entity. That is one website at a time. Okay, navigation through list menus, same thing. Visual style present typically prescribed as a function of. Okay, so basically in an app you don't get there's very little to personalize on your own, right? Like most apps will not let you customize your menu or whatever. Uh, but if you're making a web page, you can basically okay, no, wait. First is a more artistic and rather than artistic presentation very complicated. By different okay, I don't know what that means. Okay, moving on. Topic. Task efficiency targeted at a specific audience, often intended for everyone and everyone. Consistency. Um, okay, so geo apps are mostly consistent in their pages, and it's normally it contains one color scheme and the same logo, etc. Whereas in web pages, different sites have different color schemes, different logos, different UI styles, etc. Okay, so now printed pages versus web pages, this also like you really do understand. In printed pages, page size is fixed, obviously, whereas web pages sizes are variable depending on your screen. Page rendering, entire page is ready as you print it, whereas in web pages, it is presented in pieces like this PPT, for example. Page layout is precise and fixed, that is, you print it on a specific size paper, it is fixed. And page layout, it depends, for web pages, it depends on the screen size and screen. Look, give integrated and complete look, as in one page is always printed fully on like a actual page, whereas it's printed in pieces, is presented in pieces on a web page. Navigation, turning of pages. For web pages involves buttons, tabs, links, etc. You can access pages sequentially in printed pages, whereas in web pages you can access randomly. There's less interactivity in printed pages, whereas more interactivity in web pages. Color, CM by K. CM by K is cyan, yellow, magenta, and black, whereas
Black.
in the
What's
yeah,
K then?
K is black. K is black
Okay.
for some reason. I don't know. Whereas it is RGB in web pages. Page resolution is better than web pages,
I don't know how.
as in
I
the
don't.
quality is better.
I don't know how that makes
What?
sense.
Even I don't know how to make sense. Okay.
Which part?
Hmm.
Page
The
resolution.
page resolution part.
I mean, you can zoom into
Like,
a no, yeah, HTML page easier than you can zoom into a newspaper.
yeah, I don't know. Okay, so this is a hard copy software. So you can get examples over here.
I mean, that is their preference, no? That zoom. What? It's
But okay, they're not going to ask you all anyway. Like you can remember what you want. Okay, so now our last topic for today is principles of UI design. Is it the last?
yes, sir.
Yeah, it is the last basically.
For
Okay,
loads
so
and all.
last is principles. Yeah, wait, no, actually, I'm not using them. Uh, Principles of UI design. The first one is aesthetically pleasing. It appeals to eyes, the colors, shapes, sizes, images, etc. Uh, it should have clarity, as in it should not be confusing. The interface should be clear linguistically, visually, and conceptually, and it should avoid jargon. Okay, compatibility. Now, the app, the GUI and the app should be compatible with the user, what the user wants, what the task actually is, and what product the developer wants the user to use. Okay. Comprehensibility. Now, the app should be easy to understand what to look, what to do, where to do, how to do, etc. As I said, like for example, the menu part, the menu should be on the left, the back button should be on the top left, etc. etc. Configurability, right? This is basically the user should be able to personalize the app to his or her comfort, and it should be viewable to what uh, device the user has, as in a desktop or a mobile, etc. The app should be consistent, as in um, it should look the same, it should act the same, and it should operate the same throughout. Control now. Control is basically whatever you put in the app, every action should um, have an operation, should have a consequence, and nothing should happen without the user operating that action. Okay. Directness. It should provide a direct way to accomplish tasks. It should not uh, like if you want to do a particular thing, it should be at the click of a button. Okay. Efficiency. It should reduce hand-eye movement. Navigation part should be short. Similarity. The logos, color scheme, etc. should be same throughout, and it should be familiar. Uh, Familiar as in like
Why does it have punchlines as one of the things?
I don't know what is punchlines and but
Stand up.
it's like what else? Flexibility. It should be customizable. Forgiveness. So forgiveness is basically it should not touch a user for its mistakes. If there are errors in the system, there should be exception handlers, and it should auto save what the user does in that app. The app should also have predictability, as in what action the user is going to do next based on what it has done previously in the app. Recovery. Okay, so this is also okay. Recovery. Uh, the app should remember the last activity of the user, and the app should have a undo button to retract any action the user has done, which is a mistake. Okay. Responsiveness. Every action should be uh, reciprocated appropriately and immediately. There should be simplicity in the app, as in to not confuse the user, and transparency, as in the user could be anyone and should be able to know how to use the app without any guidance, etc. Okay, MCQs.
Oh shit.
Do the MCQs. First answer.
Wimp, na? B.
Yeah,
I mean,
B B.
it does actually say the entire thing what it stands for.
I know
Wimp,
that. I know. Okay. Second.
direct.
Fourth. Third.
Adding a simple interface as possible will match
Similar
simplicity.
question.
B. I know.
Simplicity.
I mean, why did it happen? CQs here.
Okay, this is how.
Wording meaningful contrast between screen elements. Clarity or accuracy. I think it's either A
No,
or
it's not. It's
and,
actually B. It's
okay.
contrast, right?
But
So
it
it's
also
like
gives you clarity, no?
you know, clarity is like what the user is doing, not uh, what is pleasing to the eye, right? Like
Okay.
okay, it said meaningful contrast between the elements. So imagine my menu is black in color, but the button below it is pink. The next button below it is yellow, and so on. So like it's not pleasing to the eye, right? It's too bright, or the color scheme doesn't match, so it's not aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Compared to an app which has got one color scheme, like uh, take for example the Facebook app. So Facebook has color scheme of blue and white. So it has light blue, white, bus, okay,
Gray icon.
gray.
This direct responsiveness. I don't know if that was right or not.
No, it's correct. It's correct.
Consistency.
Consistent.
ऐसा ऐसा MCQ आएगा तो एग्जाम में तो मैं full marks. Use real world metaphors will match. I don't know. Familiarity.
Correct. Okay, so
What was the answer to that?
Familiarity.
what are that?
The
Similarity.
last one. Last one.
Yeah, wait 1 second. I'll show you. Okay. Uh, 1 second. I will here. Okay, forget. I'll explain. So basically, like, I imagine this is one page of the app where the menu color is black and uh, the contents is white. Okay, and then you click on something, you go to the next page, the menu will be yellow, contents will be red. So it doesn't have a similar look, right? Throughout the pages. So it's inconsistent. So basically, if you have a similar look, it's more consistent. So that's why it's consistent. Uh, you all have any doubts?
No, sir.
I do have doubts, but not
I
related
see. It's
to
like
what.
basically
What?
Say.
what?
Savio, what were you saying?
Basically, when you're reading this, keep a basic image of an app in your mind. So it'll be
Huh.
easier to imagine.
You said you have
Huh.
doubts, Sidney.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
don't have doubts
actually
related to this. I wanted to ask that where are you guys studying from? Like, are you all using Rishabh's notes or ma'am's PPT? So what, this is ma'am's PPT or
what is
Rishabh?
this sub notes? I didn't get it, bro.
I don't
You
know,
are
dude. He
using.
sent it, he deleted it. Then I asked him. He told me he posted on the classroom.
It,
Baki, I didn't
you
check.
on the CMPN B classroom, right?
Yeah.
Then how will I get? See if you can
Oh.
download it and send. Like if it's
I,
easier, then I'll do from there. Then.
I think
The
it's
only
same.
difference is now it is pretty much the same, but then the content is slightly less. Like now third chapter ke liye there is only one this, but then for the second and first chapter now there are about three PPTs or more. Like for first chapter there are three, for second chapter there are around five PPTs, but ma'am has given only one for both. So I don't
Okay.
know.
So
From
see if you can download a zip file, no, from the classroom.
I'll try and I'll mail it. I have your email
Good.
ID. But then should we do only that much or should we do the
If
normal
it,
PPT?
why
I
you do
mean
that much only. If ma'am
that
said
they're gonna ask basic on it. Like if they're
हाँ
gonna
ना,
do
that's
that much,
because
okay.
because I'll tell you something in that na the second chapter ka mostly there are just 20-30 pages, and if you check the other stuff there is a lot. Like I don't know, maybe it's just
I know,
all
I know.
examples and shit, but then
see
it's
the
like
see what ma'am wrote now.
there are
Ma'am is
around
the ebooks and
two.
PPTs were reference for a Viva. This is the portion I had covered physically in class and that will be posted for Viva. So she's only going to
She
ask
said
that much.
module 1 to 3, right?
Yeah, but what she's taught in class that much only she's going to ask. You know what to ask more.
But in the second module, if you check the classroom, there are around 200 slides. Let's say even 50, 60 are like just time pass, but still. And over here are just 20 slides. But then,
But,
yeah, there are
but this
some
is what ma'am. This is not Rishabh ka notes. This is ma'am ka only
हाँ हाँ
notes.
So only that much, na? Like I am
Huh.
in.
If she
Okay,
said
and,
that much, then you can tell, nah, I'm really sure that much.
thought. And Savio, you only refer to the slides or what while studying, or you watch some videos or had
I
made some
mean,
like
today, just
हाँ
now I
while
referred
studying
only to the slides.
उससे only you
Yeah,
understood whatever.
for the exam,
Yeah,
for Viva, you don't need
I
to.
mean,
हाँ sort.
yeah.
Okay.
Joven, you want me to do anything from your part? Like I'll share chapter one with you.
You know what? I'll share with you. I'll share with you the listing, chapter 2 का listing, the chota wala. I don't know how
Acha,
to
like,
download. How to download from here?
you said you did half, right?
Yeah. How do you download from here? Okay, print.
Click on it, click on the print button, and the
I can't
next
see
page
a
you can.
print button.
There is, see, look in mine, see, there's a print button.
I found it. I have not made folders. I have to make that.
Our meeting time is over क्या? 1 minute.
Yeah, 1 minute. I'll start one more. Okay?
Why you don't need to?
Chapter one, you want to do the first half?
I mean, it's really not that much.
उसके तो नेट भी tomorrow.
I mean, why chapter? Okay, 1 minute. If I open chapter 1, why does it talk about module 1? Okay. No, it talks about module 1 for summary only. That's fine.
By the way, what were you saying, Savio? Tomorrow what?
Tomorrow you all want to continue?
Yeah, obviously.
I
Yeah.
mean, wait, I'll start a new call.